Good morning. I'm Kathleen, and you're hiking with Kathleen this morning. I wanted to welcome you to this morning's video, and there's some beauty all around us. Today happened to have a gorgeous day. It's going to be about 24 degrees Celsius by the time we're through with today. And we just had an opening scene with some white-tailed deer. These ones are familiar with people, and they probably get fed. It's not something I condone. It's not something I do, because that can also set them up for being in the company of people that aren't kind, or perhaps even if they're hunted. These ones are not in an area where they would be hunted, but nevertheless, I let them go about their way, and they just came around me because I was quiet and I stood still. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that opening scene, and I hope you stay with me for today's hike. When I first arrived at this trail, I couldn't believe it. I was surrounded by about 7 fairly tame deer. So they were just going about their own business, looking up at me occasionally. So I was able to get some really good footage. You'll have a chance to see that in the next couple of frames. Observe a few things about this deer as it is patiently eating in front of us. Its eyes are located at the side of its head. That gives it the advantage as a prey species to have good peripheral vision to see what's going on in front, beside, and behind it. The ears are constantly rotating around to detect the sounds of any possible predator. Notice the way it chews its food. The bottom jaw rotates around the top jaw. We'll have a chance to see its diastema, which is the space right behind the incisors that allow that to happen. Now, this was the only member of the herd that remained on sort of high alert, waving its tail in the event it had to communicate with other members of the herd or a prey species to say, "I've seen you." And then this is bathing time. This is a bonding behavior that takes place among deer in a herd. We're looking at an actual deer skull. So you can see it's labeled with the various parts. The one I want to draw your attention to is the part that is called the diastema. Diastema is the space behind the incisors and in front of the molars. That's what allows deer to rotate their jaws to chew. Deer communicate with each other using their scent glands. They're located on their hind legs. The tarsal glands are located on the inside of the leg, and the ones located on the outside are called metatarsal glands. These leave a scent behind, say on bushes, things of that nature, for other members of the deer herd. See if you can find the tarsal and the metatarsal glands on these deer as they're making their way through the swale, having drinks of water along the way. This large bird looks a little bit like a sparrow. It's got some great camouflage coloration, but it's a female red-winged blackbird, and she's foraging for food alongside this body of water. The male of the species, as with many other bird species, is more obvious because their job is to attract a mate and then to defend the territory, so they need to be more obvious. She, on the other hand, needs to be camouflaged, and we'll have a chance to see her sitting on her nest. Very challenging to find her in this nest, but you can look for the tip of the beak and then follow it to the rest of the bird. She's really well camouflaged. This mink seems to be trying its luck with a couple of mallard ducks. They are known predators of waterfowl, but the ducks don't seem to be as concerned. You'll see a little bit of cat and mouse going on with the couple and the mink. Ducks are herbivores, so they're not interested in a mink meal. They're probably just trying to assert themselves. So we'll see the mink as it continues to hunt for food along the riverbank. Mink are members of the weasel family. They're very good swimmers. and they tend to live in a den in the riverbank, sometimes one that has been created by muskrats, and that would be after eating the muskrat. Sitting in this kind of setting is one of the most interesting places for me to just sit down and have a break, because this sort of a swale setting will attract wildlife. I was actually here about 2 weeks ago, and in the last video you had a chance to hear some chorus frogs. They were calling from here. I am noticing mosquitoes flying around. So this is April 27th, the time of this recording, and it won't be very long before mosquitoes will be a bit of a problem. They're a biting insect. It's only the females that bite, and it's because she needs a blood meal in order to nourish her eggs. That was mosquito larva that I was hovering over, and they provide food for animals that live in the water. Tadpoles and salamander larvae will grow in a pool like this because this is where the parents breed. And salamander larvae are carnivorous. So little animals in the water, that's fair game for them. That's part of their diet. The tadpoles that emerge from frog and toad eggs, they are, herbivores from the start of life, and then they grow into becoming carnivores when they emerge as adults, which is where they eat bugs in the water. But when they start their life, they eat plant matter. So this swale is just loaded with all kinds of great food, because these leaves will be what tadpoles can live on while they're growing. Yeah, I can see mosquitoes are going to be a bit of a problem in the next couple of weeks. So this spring is really ahead of schedule, because like today, the high is about 24 degrees Celsius, and it's April. So this would probably be a time we would only be in the mid-teens at this time of year. So anyway, I'm just looking at the larva for mosquitoes. If I had the proper casing, the proper lens for this camera, I would be able to show you underwater footage. But because this has a microphone attached to the casing, it's not waterproof, so I can't sweep through the water, which is a really cool way of seeing this underwater life. This bird of prey is an osprey. It's a fish-eating bird, and we've just seen a male return to the nest in order to provide food for the female. She's on the eggs, incubating them until the young are hatched, and then at that time, both of them will be making trips back and forth to the nearby body of water to catch fish to feed themselves and to feed their brood. Now, this platform is something that's commonly erected near bodies of water to attract birds like ospreys, giving them a helping hand for nesting. This female Canada Goose is just rearranging things, making her nest the way she wants it. And you'll see there's other Canada Geese in the background swimming behind. It won't be long before you see the male, her male, will be chasing the others away, and the way he does it is he asserts himself with his neck extended. Although this female goose sitting on her nest looks like she's panting, The behavior is called gular fluttering its upper throat muscles to promote heat loss. Often in the spring, if you find a solitary goose, it's likely a male, and he may, by his presence, reveal where she is. We couldn't believe it. We went for a walk along the Lake Erie shoreline, and this is what we found. A pair of Canada geese that actually thought that was a really good site to nest. So we have the female. She's sitting on or about her nest right now, and you'll see in the background there is the male. All we can imagine is what will happen when the waves start rolling in on a particularly stormy day. And I hope for the sake of the eggs and the young that haven't yet hatched that they're going to be okay and can hatch by the time a big storm does roll in.
Well, you've been hiking with Kathleen. I'm Kathleen. Thank you so much for joining me today. A couple of notes that I want to mention regarding deer, since that was sort of the main star of at least the opening of today's video. Deer will have their young, their fawns, in the month of May. And it takes place generally within a 1 week period of time where all deer local to an area will have their young at the same time. And that seems to be an adaptation because predators who are inclined to predate the fawns while they're young and where their adaptation for survival is to lie motionlessly, camouflaged with the white spots on the reddish brown fur, and they bear very little scent in that first few days to week of their life. But the predators will be overwhelmed if they were to try to eat all of the fawns available in the area. So that's an adaptation, to overwhelm with supply, and that way the fawns have the best chance of survival. So if you happen to see a fawn in the forest lying motionlessly, just leave it. The mother leaves it and comes back and nurses it every few hours. Now typically fawns are born as twins, and then she separates them so that they know to just stay put and wait for their mother to return. After that time, after about a week or so, they start following their mother around and they can keep up with her a little bit better. But that's generally when people feel that they have found abandoned fawns, and it's just an adaptation that they lay in wait for their mama to return. Thanks again for joining me. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please click like. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing if you'd like to see more videos with this kind of content. See you the next upload next Tuesday. Bye for now.